And hello everyone, welcome back to creating our own file sharing website in Flask, of course. So in this tutorial, we're going to be adding a bunch of template and garbage code. This garbage code is of course CSS and JavaScript and HTML, all of this nonsense. Since we're focusing on Flask specifically, I'm not going to spend hours on telling you what CSS you should be adding and how the CSS should be added. I'm just going to give you the source code, and if you want, you can go look through it. But overall, we don't have to care about the CSS or the JavaScript. Maybe a little bit about the HTML because of templating, but we'll take a little bit of a look around there. Okay, so I want you to go get the source code. If you come to my website here, or to this repository, you go to Python, and link is in the description, of course. Go to Flask, Tor Friends, and here into creating sign up and login pages, then in Tor Friends, then here in static and templates. You can copy everything in here, JS, images, CSS, and here you can copy with the templates as well. You can just copy everything. We're not going to spend hours creating these because I feel it's unnecessary since they're so basic. But of course, it's up to you. So I already have the code on my PC, but you can just go copy paste from GitHub itself. It's fine. But here, as you can see, I do have the code here. I'm just going to go here to 2, and I'm going to copy static and templates, just the whole folder. But you, of course, if you're copying from GitHub, you'll need to go into each file and copy paste. But overall, we're not going to spend a lot of time here, so we can just click here and paste. There we go. So now our templates is here and static, which includes images, the JavaScript, which, we didn't have to go through this because it's a part of the course. And then here we have all of our CSS. As for templates, we'll kind of go through them as we need, but you'll see here we have a base template, which will be kind of covering everything else. As you can see, we have our head block here where our headers will go. Here's Bootstrap being imported. We did cover this a little bit in our course, and we'll be covering it a bit more here. Here's a for loop and an if statement. But yeah, we'll get to that. Next up, I want to remove this. This here, I misunderstood what this does. This is what caused that error in the previous tutorial where we couldn't just go to a specific page. We had to add a slash at the end. I thought making this false removes that issue, but actually making this false causes that issue. I have no idea why. We can just remove that line of code. Perfect. Next up, I would like to create an auxiliary function for us. Auxiliary basically means it's just there. It's something extra. It's like the utils. Some people like to call this utils. I like to call it auxiliary.py. But you'll notice here I actually spelled it wrong. And it's going to be like this for the entire course. But of course you can correct the spelling. But this should say auxiliary, not auxiliary. But okay, it's perfectly fine. We can then import from OS, or just import the whole OS. And here we want to get the root of our project. Some people like to use different methods because what we're trying to do is we're trying to tell Python where to import our code from. Because Flask has a little bit of a weird import situation, especially when you deploy from your local machine to a production machine. And for some reason, getting the actual path to your project is for some reason a whole thing. So we're just going to make things simple and say define get root, and this will return a string. If you get an error here, you need the latest version of Python to do this. This is just some auto documentation. And here we can say get the file current location root. And in here we can just say return os.path.realpath. We can pass in file here. And then we can just go in brackets, so it's an array, colon, negative ling of os.path.base name, and then file. Now you might actually want to see this in action, and let's actually run this. So here I'm just going to say source, go into my environment here, and then Python auxiliary. And in here, we can just call get root, and you can print it out. So now if you run it, here we go. So it gives us home, netsuite, documents, tut, flask, tor friends. That's exactly where my project is. So here, this is exactly the same path. Your path will be different. But basically, this path right here, or this function right here, it gets the path to our project. So whenever Flask imports, it can actually get things from the correct location. Cool. You won't see too much of this as a use just yet, but just know it is an issue. Next up, let's create a few routes. So routes. And here we can create a file, init.py, should be called exactly this. And you can create another file called root.py. Some people like to put their root paths in here, in this init.py. However, I like to put my root paths in this root.py. So it's up to you which you prefer. Then from here, we can just say from .auxiliary import everything. Of course, you could import just that one thing or whatnot. It's up to you. Then we can have a root page, which is equal to a blueprint. So let's import that. From Flask, import blueprint. This blueprint will contain its name, which is root, and then underscore name, and then give it a static folder, which is then equal to, and we're going to create an f string for this, get root. So it's going to get this project directory, so where this project is happening, and then static. Notice we don't have to add a slash, because if we look here, it automatically adds a slash at the end for us. So we don't have to separate it with a slash. And then go template folder is equal to another f string. And here we can go again, get root. And of course, this should be in quotes. And here we can just say templates and then root. Otherwise, it will not be able to find its templates or static directory. It will link to the wrong location. You might not see it during development, but when you launch this application, you might see that issue arise. And this is an easy way to get around that. Cool. Next up, we can create a few routes at root page. And this will just be a /. And here you can define index, which returns just a basic hello world. Once we have that, we can just make sure everything works as expected. So now instead of having this route here, instead we're going to import and use that blueprint. So from routes, root, import root page. And then here we can just say app.register blueprint, the root page, and then we can just give it a URL prefix of /. So it will be our home directory. Cool. Once we have this, we can actually try and run this app. It seems I got a blueprint object is not callable issue. And here we go, at root page.route, my bad. Forgot to add a .route. Now if we were to run it, the server is up. Let's open it up, and here we go. You should get a hello world. If you have that, then you're good to go. You also notice we have a little logo here now because we added that static folder and the templates folder. Now let's add a few extra routes, just so this root page here doesn't feel so empty. So at root page.route, and here we can add a sign up route. So if the user wants to sign up, sign up. And in define sign up, we can then check if the request we receive has an username exists error. To do that, we can just use request. So here we can also import request, and we can also import render template and Flash while we're at it. So then here we can then say if request dot arguments, so args dot get, if we have a username exist, then we can flash in username already exists error, and we can just say error, and then we can return render template, and we have a template we want to return. If we were to go here and go to template, here we have a login HTML. Our sign up page and our login page will both use the same template. We can then go here and say login.html, and then no nav will be true. And this is just a variable we're passing in, and you'll see why in a second. And then sign up can also be true. So this means we are trying to sign up, not log in. Cool. Now this page should work if we go here and say sign up. Then here we have our sign up page. Let's take a look at this code before we actually jump into the login page. So if we go here to templates, let's first take a look at base. So base, this is just what goes around everything. You'll notice we have a head block here, so we can put some head details in there. Here we import our CSS. Here we import Bootstrap, font awesome. We put an image on the tab. So there's a tab icon here. And then here we put some metadata. And for the body, we say if there is a no nav. So if not no nav, we will show them a navigation bar, because if they're on the login page, we don't want to show them a navigation bar. So as you can see here, there's no navigation bar up here. So if no nav is provided, then we don't show this, because this only shows if there is not a no nav. So this will show the navigation. Then here we can go and we get with messages, and we get the flashed messages, and only those with categories. So categories meaning this. Then here we check if messages. So if there are actually messages to display. Then for each category and message in that messages we get, if the category is of type error, we show in div that displays an error alert. If it's not an error, we show one that displays in the specific category alert. So if it's warning or whatnot, this is all part of Bootstrap. I do have an entire Bootstrap course, but yet again, you don't have to know too much of this, because this is just some background stuff. It's just extra styling. And then finally, we have our close button. So if there's a message, we can just click here and we'll close the button, and here it displays the message. You can go a little bit slow and look through this yourself, and you'll actually find out this pretty interesting code. It might be confusing if you're not going through it yourself and testing and see what happens. But basically, if we go here, username exists, and we go question mark username exists is equal to yes. Then here we get username exists. This is what that looks like. So as you can see here. Next up, let's take a look at the login HTML. So here we say if it's a sign up page, then this form should direct you to the login page. So when you sign up, it will take you to the login page. Otherwise, this form will just stay here, because the login page will be covering most of everything we do when it comes to logging in and signing up. So if it's a login page, just stay where you are, just go to the same page. Otherwise, go to the login page if you're on the sign up page. And in here we have a link that takes you to the home page. So if we click here on Tor Friends, it will take us to the home page. And here, of course, depending on if you're signing up, it will display sign up. If you're logging in, it will display login. Then here we have just our form that takes in our username, and it also does a little bit of validation. And here we have a form that takes in our password with a little bit of validation. And in here, it gives us a button which is either sign up or login, depending on if you're in sign up mode or login mode. And in here, we have a link that if you already have an account, it will take you to login page if you're on the sign up page. And if you're on the login page and you don't have an account, it will take you to the sign up page. And this also shows you a very important part of templating in Flask. You'll notice here we use a lot of cool features like if statements, with, and whatnot, because they are so useful. And I highly recommend you actually go and take a look through all of this, because we could have coded all of this out, but as you can see, it's a lot of typing and it will actually just waste a lot of time on the end of the day, when all you can do is you can look through it and play with it on your own time. But cool. Now let's create the login page. So at root, let's actually just copy this, because why do we need to constantly repeat ourselves here? Trying to be efficient. We go login, and here we go login. And now we need to check, have we gotten a post request or a get request? As I've said before, a post request is when you send sensitive information like passwords and stuff. That's a post request, because a get request will return these things in the URL. This is a get request. We don't want our password to be in the URL, so we're going to use a post request. So we can check if request.method is a post request. Then we can flash a message, and later on we'll actually implement this. We can flash a message, account has been created. Log in to get started. And we can just say this is of type info. So if this is a post request, otherwise the rest is for if it's an get request. We can then go here and say if this request args get has an auth. And if this auth is equal to fail, so if we get a get request parameter where the auth is equal to fail, we should display an error here, where we can say username or password is incorrect. We can then create another get request here, or another request to get the arguments. ACC deleted. So if the user deleted their account, this is for future sake. But if the user deleted their account, we can also display that. So here we can say account removal successful. And this can be of type info. And finally, we can render the template, and we can just remove sign up true because this is now login. If we now go here and we say we want to go to login page here, actually I just click here, have an account, it will take us to the login page. Now it says login. No account, now it says sign up. Now here if we go and say auth is equal to fail, it will show us username or password is incorrect. Or if we say account deleted, was it account deleted? It's ACC underscore deleted. ACC underscore deleted is equal to yeah or whatnot. And here this is delted, but it should be deleted. Now if we refresh, account removal successful. Cool. So currently it doesn't work yet, but we have the concept idea here. Cool. So that is the basics for designing the login and sign up pages and just kind of getting them to a somewhat functional state where they kind of work. So right now it's not really doing anything. We can even enter some dummy data in here. Sign up. And here it actually seems like it gave me that error again, which is somewhat fishy. So it should not be giving me that error. So maybe this here was actually to prevent that. I'm having a little bit of trouble with this here because sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But let's see right now. If I refresh, continue, still giving me the same issue. It's fine though. What we can do to solve that is we can go to our templates, to login HTML. And here where it goes to /login, we can just say /login/ and it will work. Now if we go back to our sign up page, we put in some dummy data, sign up, and it did not refresh because that is the template. And what we could also possibly do is just remove that slash there at the end. That might also make it less prone to doing this. So if we refresh, it says the method is not allowed. Okay, let's try again. Now we get a method not allowed. So there's a post request to /login. And here we should just remember to specify methods is equal to get or post. Otherwise we can only use get requests. Now if we were to go back, we were to now fill in some dummy data again, sign up, now we can go to login. Okay, so I also think I found the issue then. We should just not add a slash here at the end and it should work. Perfect. So that's the basics. Please take a look at the code, especially this template code, and just get a feel of how it looks. Thank you for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you all again in the next Flask tutorial.